the stars come to shine when it's dark from so far away and show us where we are? What makes the sun go to sleep every night, and what's it dreaming of? I wonder. How come the sky sometimes hides behind the clouds? Maybe it's just like me, a little bit scared of heights. Why does the rain always keep on pouring down when it's gray outside? It really makes me wonder.
This is the start of another reading vlog. So I am getting ready to go downtown with some friends. We're going to go to a brewery. We're going to go, I think we're getting burgers, and we're just gonna have a good time. Don't mind the unmade bed behind me. It has been a long day and I just can't be bothered. So in this vlog, I'm going to be reading two books. The first one I'm going to read is The Lost Girls of Willowbrook by Ellen Marie Wiseman. And both of these books are about asylums or institutions. So if you didn't know about me, I really like books about institutions, asylums, residential treatment, psych hospitals, any of that. I work in residential treatment, I work in behavioral health, so I really love anything like that in my books. I've read some true crime books and some nonfiction books about asylums or institutions, and then I've also read some fictional books about it. And so these are both fictional books about institutions. And I actually reached out to the publisher and asked them to send me a copy of this, so thank you so much to Kensington Books for sending this to me. As soon as I read the premise of this book, I was like, oh my gosh, that is going to be a 5-star read for me. And so I'm so excited that they sent me that. So in this book, we're following Sage, and Sage is a twin, but her twin actually died when she was a little kid. And so now she's a teenager, and her mother is dead, her sister is dead, and her stepdad is not very good. And she stumbles upon some information one day and learns that her twin sister actually didn't die at age 6 like she was told. Her twin sister was actually committed to this school for girls, Willowbrook. And Willowbrook is actually like a real place. All of this did happen. Obviously, this is a fictional story, but Willowbrook School actually was a real place on Staten Island that was shut down for abuse and neglect. There was a big expose done about them, and they ended up being shut down because of the horrible practices that were going on there. So once Sage learns that her twin, Rosemary, is actually in Willowbrook and she's alive, she decides to go and find her. And what her father tells her is that, well, Rosemary was there, but Willowbrook called and said that she's missing. They don't know where she is. They're not able to find her. So Sage decides to take matters into her own hands and go to Willowbrook and try and help look for her sister. So she gets on a bus, goes to Willowbrook, and when she gets there, they think that she is Rosemary because they're identical twins. They look exactly the same. So they're like, "You're back, finally, where have you been?" And they take her into the unit, and she can't seem to convince them that she is not Rosemary, because I guess Rosemary has schizophrenia, and she actually has delusions that she is Sage, and so she would tell people in Willowbrook that she was Sage and have them refer to her as that. And so of course when Sage says, "I'm not Rosemary, I'm Sage," they're like, "Yeah, okay," and they don't believe her. And the imagery in this book is just so real. It is like, the way she describes it, I can completely picture this horrible place in my head. And I think it's an important book. I think it's important to talk about. I think these are important conversations to have. So I'm super excited to keep going with this. It's giving Girl Interrupted vibes. It's giving One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest vibes. It's giving Nurse Ratched vibes, if you've seen that show. It's giving the Asylum season of American Horror Story, all of that. I had chills when I was reading about the facility there and the way the girls are treated in this state-run institution. and I'm so excited to keep going with it, so I will let you know when I have more to report. Okay, good morning. It's actually probably not morning, I think it's like after 12. So I did not vlog at all yesterday, or really even Friday night when I went downtown to breweries, because I have not been feeling good. I've been feeling very under the weather. I've been having some stomach pain, some back pain, and eating makes it worse, not eating makes it worse. I have basically been living off of ginger ale and water since Friday night. So I don't really know what's wrong with me, but I'm really not feeling good. So yeah, like I said, I literally just laid in bed all day. And you know how when you are sick, it just like drains every ounce of energy that you have. So this morning I was feeling better and I was like, all right, I'm going to get out of this funk. I'm going to get out of bed. I'm going to make some coffee. I have things I need to get done. And I put on my makeup, and after just like putting away some clothes and doing some dishes and doing my makeup to film the book haul that I just filmed, I feel so exhausted already, like so exhausted. So yeah, so I just want to crawl back in bed with this book. But if you want an update, I am 213 pages into this book and I am freaking loving it. This book is dark, it's horrifying, it's so sad, and it makes me feel like frustrated because this girl Sage is telling everybody like, I'm not Rosemary, I'm her twin sister. And because of Rosemary's disabilities, they're like, okay, yeah, whatever. Like, you've been saying that forever. And it's just so frustrating, I'm sure. Like, it's frustrating to me reading it. Reading about places like this really make me appreciate how far we've come as a society. Now, we still have a long way to go. I visit a lot of residential facilities for children with disabilities all year, and I definitely see where, as a society, we need to improve. But you know, it's not to this extent anymore. I'm so glad that we have laws and policies put in place to keep some of these things from happening. And it just gave me chills reading about some of the descriptions of this horrible, horrible place. And we have just become a lot more aware of trauma and of the fact that having a disability doesn't mean someone is less of a person. But I mean, it is just horrific. And it really makes me see how thankful I am to work with people that care about our clients, that want our clients to do well and to succeed. And this is very humbling because it makes me see how very easy the table can flip when you don't have staff that are constantly trying to be aware of the fact that, you know, our clients with these disabilities have trauma and they're away from their families and they have trouble communicating, and we need to do our best to make sure they can do their best. And if you don't have that in your staff, it can become like this very, very quickly. It can become like just cattle that you're pushing from one place to another and just throwing food and medicine at. So I want to read just this part of, this is the beginning of chapter 11 on page 164. It says, by Sage's 5th day in Willowbrook, Ward D had gone 2 nights without heat and no one had showered since the day she'd arrived. 4 residents had been wrestled into straitjackets and hauled off to who knew where. 2 residents had died, 1 broke her leg. Yesterday, they'd been given only half portions of the ground-up meals, and a strange itchy rash had started on Sage's feet and ankles. She'd been spit at, screamed at, grabbed, slapped, and punched. She knew every wall and corner and piece of furniture in Ward D, and the day room like a prisoner knows the inside of his cell. She knew who relieved themselves on the floor, who liked to piss off the attendants, and who refused to take off their soiled clothes. She knew who watched TV and who acted like it didn't exist. That just really puts it in perspective for me, how important it is for us to feel empathy for other humans. And I don't think that empathy is, I think sometimes empathy needs to be taught. And I just always try to remind people, like, what if, you know, what if this was your child? What if it was your sister? What if it was your grandmother? How would you want them to be treated. And that's always how I try to treat other people. I try to treat everybody with empathy, but it's scary to see what potentially could happen if you lose that and use that sense of humanity in these individuals that I'm supporting. And it just makes me sad, and I don't want anybody to have to go through that ever. This really lights a fire under me to ensure the dignity and the safety of people that receive out-of-home care. I just think this book is really special, and it's necessary to see where we've been, and it's also necessary to see how we still have work to do. Okay, so I am on page 259. I think that I have figured it out, so we'll have to see if I'm right or not. But I have a theory on how this ends. I hope I'm right, because if I did, it's like really good. There have been some like breadcrumbs kind of laid throughout the story that leads me to think that I might be right. Also, the killer or the murderer is never the person that you would expect, you know? Like, it's never the person that everybody thinks like the whole book is the murderer or the one that makes the most sense. It's never that, or at least it shouldn't be. A good thriller, it shouldn't be the person that everybody suspects. So we'll see. I have to finish this today. Like, I really don't think there's a whole lot more. I think I should be able to finish this afternoon. I'm home from work and I wanted to talk to you about The Lost Girls of Willowbrook. I finished it last night on sprints with Keisha and Jordan and Gwen. I'll link all their channels. But this was so good. This was so good. 5 stars, immediately 5 stars. Like, sometimes when I give books 5 stars, I have to think about it, but like, I didn't have to think about this. 5 stars immediately. This was so good. It was such a great discussion on empathy, the way we view people with disabilities and the way we interact with people with disabilities, the need that we have in our society to treat them just like everybody else. I loved the way this ended. I cried at the end, just a little bit. I teared up. It wasn't like full-on waterworks, but I definitely teared up, especially after I read the author's note and I read where the idea behind some of the characters came from. And a lot of the characters are based on real events. And this is based on a real serial killer who allegedly murdered a bunch of people at Willowbrook. I just loved how the author took a true story and a bunch of true events and made them into such a well done thriller. I feel like she did a good job getting her point across, and she did a good job by pulling in thriller readers, and then you go away feeling like you truly learned something about empathy and about human interaction and about the need to treat other humans with respect and dignity and see them as more than just a disability. And I love that, because that's what I have tried to spend my career doing. That's what I try to relate to people. And I love that she's pulling this in a work of fiction. I just loved everything about it. I can't say enough good things. I spent a good hour after I finished this looking into the author and looking up interviews and things like that. I just really respect and appreciate the way that she did this. And I hope that the people who read this, I hope it lights a fire under them to ensure that this doesn't have to happen to our children anymore. And unfortunately, we have a lot of work to do still in the institutions that we have for our children and for our adults in this country. I'm gonna get off my soapbox for that. I just really enjoyed this. I liked the characters. I liked, like, there's even actual pictures of Willowbrook, and you can totally tell that she did her research. Some things, the one thing that I have, and this is just me being nitpicky because I have studied a lot of different best practices for mental health, and I have studied a lot of like history of asylums in our country, and this is set in the 70s, and they probably would not still have been doing lobotomies at that point. Probably. Not saying that it wouldn't have gone undocumented, because a lot of things went undocumented. Not super likely that lobotomies were still being done in the 70s. By the 70s, they were more doing like shock therapy and other things. But at that point, I think most practitioners knew at that point that lobotomies are not helpful at all. They do way more harm than good. They don't really do anything that they thought they would do. And she even mentioned that, and I remember being like, I don't know about that. And then she talked about it in the author's note. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, lobotomies were performed at Willowbrook from 1948 to 1954. So I like that even when she took like liberties with some of the facts, she referenced it. I can tell that a lot of her went into this book. This is just so good. This is so good because things like this, institutions like this, are a lot of the reason that I got into the field that I am in, because I have seen firsthand the horrific things that can be done to children when there's not policies, when there's not procedures put in place, when there's not follow-up, when there's not proper training. I wish that we didn't have to live in a world where residential treatment and state schools existed, but unfortunately we do. And so all that we can do is provide the best possible place that we can for those children. Because as much as I would love for all of the children that are in residential treatment to be with families, that's not always feasible. And so I just think that if the staff had even an ounce more empathy and saw these children as more than just bodies to be kept alive, then Willowbrook would have been a totally different place. And I think it's a big lesson to all of us. Okay, I'm gonna get off my high horse now. That's my spiel for today. Even though I'm in a little bit of a hangover over that book, anybody do that? Let me know in the comments down below if you get in book hangovers after you read like a really phenomenal book. So I started The Lobotomist's Wife. I have it on Audible, so I was listening to it a little bit this morning while I was getting ready for work and things like that. And it is a little bit earlier. It's set more in like the 40s and 50s, I believe. I'm not sure. I have to double check the year that it's supposed to be, but it's about this woman, and she is the superintendent at a state school, and she marries this doctor. And right now we're just learning about her being a female in a very male-driven job description. And she just seems very classy in the way she handles herself, but it's crazy to me, some of the practices that they used to do. And she would walk around, and she prides herself on walking around and knowing the patients and things like that. And then as soon as a patient yells, she's like, I care about you. And then as soon as the patient even starts raising her voice, she's like, oh, straitjacket. Anyway, so that's where I am. It's just one of those things, like, people do what they know when they know it. And at that point in history, that's what they knew. The hope would be that once we know something better, that we do better. If you know better, do better. It's just like they used to bloodlet people to cure diseases, or they used to bloodlet people for like religious purposes too. And now we know that that's not helpful for disease. Cars didn't used to have seatbelts. And then they saw the need for seatbelts and they put seatbelts in. We only do what we can based on the information we have at the time. And then if we know something better, the hope is that we do something better. So that's what I have to say on that. So I do have to get past some of those horrific practices for myself a little bit. I'm gonna continue listening to The Lobotomist's Wife, and she just married this doctor that she fell in love with that works at the hospital, and we'll see what happens next. vlog. It has been a couple days, but I have finished The Lobotomist's Wife. I think I'm going to give this 3.5 stars. I might round up to 4, but 3.5 stars. I liked it, I enjoyed it. I like the historical accuracy. I like how the author took real events and took a real doctor that actually existed and kind of tweaked it a little bit. So I read the author's note at the end, and it basically said that she read a book that had a chapter about lobotomies and the doctor that the book was based off of, and she started thinking about his family and what his wife might be thinking, what would be going through her mind. And so that's how she got the idea for The Lobotomist's Wife. And at first it's like the greatest thing ever, and they feel like they have found the mecca of all things behavioral health, and then things start going awry. And Ruth really has to make the decision of, am I going to stand by my husband, or am I going to do what's best for my patients? And I really enjoyed the character of Ruth. I felt like she was very self-aware. I felt like she was smart. I felt like she was supposed to be a female ahead of her time medically. The book didn't feel like it had a distinct crescendo. I felt like there was a lot of building, and then the book just kind of ended. So I would have liked a little bit more of a clear cut, like this is the high point of the book and then the resolution. It felt like the ending was a little bit quick. It felt like there was a lot of building up to, and then it just ended. So overall, I enjoyed it. So both had really good discussions on mental illness and how far we've come as a society. And so I really enjoyed them. So I think this was a successful vlog. I had a 3.5/4 star and a 5-star book. This was really fun. Like I said, I think I said at the beginning of this vlog, I just really enjoy books about psychiatrists, mental illness, behavioral health, things like that. So definitely let me know in the comments down below if you've read other books like this that you might recommend to me, fiction or nonfiction. And let me know if I've enticed you to pick up either of these books. Thanks so much for watching. Please hit that subscribe button. It really helps out my channel. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye!